Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. This is the sixth lecture, Public Policy Formulation, Implementation and Evaluation, Part 2. In this lecture, we will start with the implementation process and its objectives. Firstly, realization of policy decision. Secondly, utilization of stock resources, and mainly generation of output. In implementation, important aspect that one should consider is to determine whether an organization is whether able to achieve its set goals within time and within time. Implementation of policy means to execute the state's policy, and policy implementation is actually putting an idea into practicality. Now we'll come to the elements in policy implementation. Implementation is something moving an idea from a concept into reality. Thus, to cut it short, to implement policy effectively, one needs to know first what needs to be done, the availability of required resources, and even the ability to assemble and control these resources. Communication of expectation to implement and controlling their performance is of equal importance. And other factors that affect policy implementation are availability of administrative capability, or in other words you can say the government machinery, in order to achieve policy goals. And the most important thing that we have forget to mention over here is the political support and the support from all organ of the states or the established institutions, which are mainly executive, judiciary, and administrative. After understanding the elements, now we will be discussing different approaches of policy implementation. So the first one is top-down rational system approach. This is something in which decision is taken by the top class from the executive or from the court. Here authoritative decisions are taken to implement the policy in order to achieve the set goals. The characteristic approach of a top-down rational system approach is clear and consistent goals articulated at the top of the hierarchical environment. The second is knowledge of persistent cause and effect, and the third one is clear hierarchy of authority. And the fourth one is establishment of rules at the top and alignment of policy with the rules and resources or capacity to carry out commands from the top. The second one is bottom up rational approach, and as per the proponent of this group, this thinks that the targeted groups are actually the people who implement public policy. However, according to this view, local bureaucrats, which are the implementers, are allowed discretion in the implementation process with respect to local condition and for the success of the policy. So discretion may be a very good thing, especially when it is useful, especially when the expertise of the people are used in implementing the public policy. However, the third is inter-organizational interaction approach. As per this heading, the behavior of people with each other in an organization is an important consideration for this aspect. So, according to this view, implementation is a process which involve interaction among different group of people, different communal, different ethnic community, different sectarian group, I would say. There are two approaches under this category. Power dependency approach, in which interaction of organizations is the product of power relationship within two organizations. Such organizational relations are based on dominance and dependency, whereas the second one under this approach is organizational exchange approach, in which organizations work with one another for mutual benefit. Like for example, like for example, when there is an investigation carried out at the federal level in Pakistan, so they normally approach different institution for investigation. This example we can fit over here. Now this comes the new category policy action relationship model, and it is an interactive and bargaining process which take place over time between those who are responsible for enacting the policy and those who have control of resources. Now the important thing over here is that we should discuss is who is actually implementing the policy. Means the first one is administrative agency. Why these agencies are important? Because they are in the field, they are actually experiencing different things, they are in connection with the people, and they are trying to fix the problems. So due to their experience, they can come up with very good suggestions, and by following those suggestions, a lot of problems can be solved. And one thing more important for the administrators is that things there shouldn't be any ambiguity. They should be clear headed with the policy, and even they should communicate the things to the people very clearly. And if there would be any ambiguity, confusion would be created in between people and the administrative, and it will get worse. So the second one is voluntary sector and pressure group. The role of voluntary is very important, because they are the people who doesn't work for money, but they do work for the welfare of the society, particularly the poor segment of the society and the needy one. And in other words, these NGOs are also volunteers, and they are quite helpful, and they have done a lot of they have contributed a lot in the societies in implementing the government public policies. I'll give some examples over here. For example, forest policy related to the environment, irrigation policy, health policy, and education policy, and they normally work in the areas where there is a lot of need for the betterment. And even group action is more effective, teamwork is more effective if we compare team and group work with an individual action. Other than this administrative agencies, even NGOs have played very good role in communicating the public policy or the government policy to the people. And the third one is community as an alternative. And the fourth one is legislative bodies. Though legislators have the role of making policies, but other than this, they should have a control over policy, control over implementation, and control over public expenditure. The parliament exercise their control through different precedents that has happened before, budget discussion and questioning. And the fifth one is judicial bodies. They are directly or indirectly involved in their in this policy making. Normally they don't interfere, but when something is wrong and something is being done against law or against constitution, then the court has the right to intervene, and they do intervene. The sixth one is influence of political structure. So here it was enough for today, and I hope you would have understood the lecture, and if there would be any query you can ask me during the lecture time in the WhatsApp group, and even other than that anytime you can ask me. I'll be at your service. Thank you so much. Stay blessed. Allah Hafiz.